I feel both honored and privileged to be part of this first international symposium on youth associated with non-state armed groups, YANSAG for short. I'm also grateful to the Accept International for extending this invitation to me. Young people have great potential as driving forces for the future. To turn this potential into real driving force, however, youth need to be able to feel confident that they can shape their future and be provided with opportunities. Obviously, this is much more challenging when youth face fragile situations of peace and security. Thus, Japan engages with youth based on the human security approach, which calls for protection and empowerment of people, particularly youth. The meaning of protection here does not apply only to physical safety, but also to the right to education. Education allows youth to be well equipped with abilities which can prevent them from joining or slipping back into armed groups, thereby serving as a precious tool to protect youth from violence. A study conducted by the UNDP entitled Journey to Extremism in Africa stresses the critical role that education plays in protecting youth from being trapped in armed groups. It shows that the longer the years of education young people receive, the fewer the chances of them being recruited by violent extremist groups. I should say that education is one of the most critical tools to reintegrate youth, including those who are associated with violent groups, back into society. For empowerment, Japan supports expanding youth employment opportunities in the aftermath of conflict. To take the example of Somalia, after the civil war ended in 2012, job opportunities for the youth did not exist and income sources were very limited, which led young people, driven by the need for sustenance, to join piracy and armed rebels. Against this backdrop, JICA held a workshop in Uganda in 2019 for Somali's government officials and private organizations that support local entrepreneurs and middle and small enterprises, with the aim of helping more young people to run businesses in Somalia in the long term. It is our strong hope that such post-conflict empowerment initiatives will make young people reliable peace builders. It is commendable that Accept International provides a range of initiatives aimed at empowering youth who were once associated with armed groups. These initiatives include fostering dialogue, providing skills training, and organizing reintegration workshops. What's more impressive is that these efforts by Accept International have achieved positive results, which will be highlighted in today's presentations by Mr. Yosuke Nagai, founder and CEO of Accept International, YANSAGs themselves, and other distinguished panelists. We are all looking forward to hearing their stories today. To conclude, the Security Council Resolution 2250 on Youth, Peace and Security, which is called YPS, has paved the way for youth to participate in peace processes. But more remains to be done. I hope this event will be the first of many similar events and one of the milestones for the international community to support more young people, especially YANSAGs, as agents of peace.
Now we move on to the next agenda, which is the keynote speech from Yosuke Nagai, the founder and the CEO of NGO Accept International, and 4 youth associated with non-state armed group from Somalia, Philippines, Colombia, and Indonesia. This group will discuss the background and urgency of today's agenda.
Peace TV reporters have been active at the UN headquarters since 2010. the age of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. They are often invited to gather pictures and news about high-level meetings and events at the UN headquarters. We usually report live on the scene the events of dozens of countries, including the US, France, the UK, Israel, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Kuwait, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Morocco, and the EU at the UN headquarters and their residences in New York. Our news reports have, in part, kept the international community up to date with the work of different governments so that people everywhere will know the great efforts and contributions of the UN to world peace, international affairs, and multilateralism.
In New York, so everything really messed up. But very, very glad to be here today with you and a lot online indeed. And so then actually in this keynote presentation, I'm going to explain what we do quickly and what we have to think about now with my experience and my research with Dr. Erica of the Geneva Academy. And actually we don't have much time today, so let me go fast a bit. Yes. So my name is, Yosuke Nagai, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Accept International. And actually, it's along with my work of Accept, I have been also working for some UN agencies as like expert group meeting member and technical working group member, and also just appointed as the one of the youth advisory board for UN Habitat, especially on social inclusion and violent extremism, country and violent extremism. So actually, I established this NGO in 2011. So and, since that time, I have been working at this kind of work in this field with a lot of people. So actually then about what we do, so quickly, so we are really recognizing the limitations of military approaches in countering hatred. So that's why we focus on preventing, youth involvement in violence and also supporting a lot for disengagement and reintegration into society. And our efforts also include humanitarian emergency assistance and support for victims and survivors in the community to foster like reconciliation at the community level, little by little. And about prevention, firstly. So prevention is always to generate like comprehensive resilience for vulnerable young people, especially. So that's why we do a lot, like income generation project, and followed by some vocational trainings, skill trainings, and also sometimes in very rural areas. In cooperation with some international agencies, we sometimes do conflict management workshops and trainings. And also, secondary, about voluntary defection and disengagement. We usually collaborate with the local government and the intelligence services, intelligence agencies and the security forces to have hotlines, for example, for defectors, so that youth, including those within non-state armed groups now, can disengage from the chain of hatred. Also, we conduct really a lot of outreach activities such as leaflet distribution and radio broadcasting in very contested area, negotiations with community key persons like elders and religious leaders to promote defection more and more disengagement. And thirdly, so this is our main work indeed, so that is rehabilitation and reintegration. We provide a variety of programs tailored to individuals' needs for defectors from violent groups and prisoners and detainees, including the prisoner of war, especially in Yemen context, in detention and rehabilitation facilities. So we do a lot basically. So it starts from care counseling, like every single day. And of course we have like 5 days in a week. It's a basic education from like really basic education. And also we cannot forget religious re-education. And that should be done with like a seminar style not like a one-way lecture style, because the overall capacity is key. And of course, we do vocational trainings and the job management session, and after the release, we have to do it's a long-term follow-up, at least for 6 months.
So if we follow this logic, then eliminating the extremist group is never going to be a complete or permanent solution. We have to address the causes, and this of course means more inclusive societies, access to opportunity, political systems that are not corrupt or not nepotized, and this has not happened. Now in the Middle East and North Africa, where we see the most extremist recruitment activity, this is not all that surprising. Youth unemployment, rentierism, authoritarian governance, these are all complicated challenges that the development community has been grappling with for decades. But the status quo is dangerous, probably more dangerous before, because group networks have become more sophisticated and these groups have learned by doing. So what to do? Saying over and over again that we need to fix all of this, we need to create jobs and promote democracy, it might be correct, but it's not particularly constructive. What's perhaps more realistic is risk mitigation. And one group that we could specifically focus on, one very high risk group, is youth who are returning from combatant groups. They're particularly vulnerable. From mine and Yusuke's research, we see that in many cases they'll be stigmatized and discriminated against. And this can come from all sides. Stigmatized that they joined, stigmatized that they perpetrated violence, stigmatized that they put their communities at risk of attack or high military scrutiny, scrutinized because they didn't deliver on the promises of the group. Even in the best cases, they will generally have learning gaps, and these are educational as well as socio-relational, and these are very, very difficult to close in young adults. Also very common is mental health challenges. So when you're exposed to violence at a young age, this comes with consequences. So for young people dealing with this and coming back to an unchanged situation, all of those regional drivers are still present. Group reattachment becomes a real risk. So we should focus on this group. We should. It's logical. They need jobs, they need psychosocial support, probably most importantly, they need meaningful stuff to do. And all this is kind of achievable when we're only looking at a small pocket of people, not an entire continent. But we're not prioritizing it. And it's important to unpack why, not to attribute blame, but to better understand the dynamics that we're dealing with. Two interesting things came out of the work that Yusuke and I did. First was how little donor support there is for this kind of programming, at least in the areas that we were studying. And admittedly, it's hard to craft an attractive proposal for activities that will benefit any group that can be typecast as connected to violent extremism. The more surprising thing was that, and not in all cases, but in a significant number, communities were reticent to this type of reintegration programming as well. And it was for various reasons, but one that was kind of cross-cutting was avoiding attention. They realized that programming would inevitably come with a high level of scrutiny from security services and potentially the groups themselves from a retaliatory perspective. These are all tough obstacles to overcome, and I can't propose any hard or fast solutions, but putting them on the agenda for discussion is a good first step.
Very happy to be here today. I teach at New York University on international peace building with a particular focus on looking at sort of grassroots approaches, localized approaches, decolonized approaches to peace building. I also direct the Peace Research and Education Program, which is our space for practical, on-the-ground peace research and education, working in, for a long time, Iraq. That's the main place that I've worked for over 20 years. Also Colombia, Libya, Kuwait. And so I have a particular interest in sort of bridging the gap between the youth that I teach here in New York and also those who I encounter in these different countries where we do a lot of participatory action research. So delighted to have this opportunity.
An issue that I've been working on for much of my career, issues of young people impacted by it. So that's why it's a pleasure to be here. And right now I'm working as a consultant on these issues. I've worked also at the State Department. I've taught at the Fletcher School at Tufts University. I've done work with youth in war-affected contexts in about, it's over 20 countries. So I'm going to hand it back over to you and let us continue.
Yeah, one, it's we're gonna discuss a bit about the role of young people. I mean, the role of youngsters, especially in the global peace and security. So actually, I have some questions to each panel, and maybe followed by some mutual discussions. So first, to Mark, I have some questions. Actually, I have to say, as we already discussed a bit, the YPS agenda, youth, peace and security agenda, has been pivotal global framework for several years already. However, it is really obvious that youngsters often receive very insufficient attention within YPS discussions, even inside of the Security Council resolutions on YPS. So, and there is absolutely same for youth empowerment and the engagement agendas and discussions as well. We really just, we always just talking about just general youth existence. So, as an expert on YPS, Mark, how do you perceive the challenges and opportunities of youngsters? And also, how can we better understand their role in promoting peace and security?